Architectural Outcast.
Welcome to the Architectural Outcast. I'm Randy, and I'm back with another critique of Star Trek, the original series. This time around, I'm looking at Season 1, Episode 4, The Naked Time. Outside of being infamous for Sulu running around waving his sword at people, this episode's plot is pretty straightforward. Spock and Mr. Body beam down to a planet to meet with a scientific team, and they find everybody's dead. Dun dun dun. And what's more, they all died in really weird ways, like freezing to death while taking a shower with their clothes on. Mr. Body, in the process of trying to figure out what's going on, takes off his glove. And wouldn't you know it, he gets contaminated. Things start to unravel rather quickly for Mr. Body once he returns to the ship. He develops self-doubt, starts to ask, why are humans in space in the first place? Maybe they're meddling in things they shouldn't. This self-doubt leads to self-loathing, causing him to want to harm himself. Ends up in sickbay, where he dies because he lacks the will to live. This is the first time we hear the line, "He's dead." But instead of Bones saying, "He's dead, Jim," it's Nurse Chapel saying, "He's dead, Doctor." Pretty much everybody who came into physical contact with Mr. Body, and then everybody who comes into contact with them, all start unraveling pretty quickly as well. And they all show the same symptoms. Loss of impulse control, suddenly acting out their innermost thoughts, their wants, their fears, their desires. Sulu abandons his post, despite the fact that they're orbiting a very dangerous planet, to go work out, and then suddenly is running around the ship shirtless with his rapier, believing he's D'Artagnan, going to save the damsel in distress. Helmsman Riley is too busy daydreaming, allows the ship to veer dangerously off course. When relieved of duty, he goes, locks himself in engineering, shuts off the engines so that he can force everybody to listen to him sing over the intercom. Nurse Chapel reveals she has the hots for Mr. Spock, and she wants to help him feel emotions. Yeah, that's it. She wants to help him feel emotions. When he rejects her, she spends the rest of the episode lost in her fantasies of helping Spock feel emotions. Spock starts to lose control, starts to feel all those emotions that Nurse Chapel wanted to help him with. His reaction to feeling these emotions is resentment and then rage. Turns out, old Spock is a pretty mean drunk. As the ship's situation becomes more dire, Kirk starts to lose self-control. He becomes more aggressive, willing to take bigger risks. Kirk realizes he's not at the top of his game. He goes to Spock for help. Kirk and Spock out of control isn't a good combination. They end up in a physical altercation. Whereas Kirk reveals he doesn't much care for command. He finds it a burden, having everybody dependent upon him, always having to make the right decision, always having to do the right thing. And in the end, all he really wants out of life is to walk on a moonlit beach with a beautiful woman. Dr. McCoy figured out that whatever contaminated Mr. Body has a similar chemical structure as to alcohol, and it pretty much has the same effect on the human body. But there's an antidote. Kind of wonder if it's coffee. And that antidote works pretty quickly. Kirk and company are able to sober up quick enough where they can restart the ship, avoid crashing into the planet, and discover time warp. They go back in time 3 days. Fortunately, they don't have to relive those last 3 days. They're just going to arrive early at their next destination. The rest of the crew are also slowly sinking into chaos as they one by one lose impulse control, begin acting on their innermost thoughts, their wants, their desires, their fears. A question that comes immediately to mind is anybody responsible for all the things they might have said or done while in this altered state? Now, I'm not talking legally. I'll let the lawyer types deal with that. I'm talking ethically and morally. I don't think too many people are going to disagree, though, that pretty much everybody involved in this were innocent victims. They didn't willingly put themselves in this condition. They didn't even know they'd been contaminated. They didn't realize they were losing impulse control. And that's a key point we'll come back to. Although I'm pretty sure that the authorities will want to have a long talk with Mr. Riley. And why? That's another thing we need to talk about as well. The only one you could hold accountable for all this is Mr. Body. He beams down to a planet in an isolation suit into a place where people died in really bizarre manner. And what does the first thing he do? Takes off his glove, scratches his nose, starts touching things with his bare hand. When Mr. Spock says, whatever you do, don't break containment, don't touch anything directly, and when we get back to the ship, we're going to have to decontaminate the outside of these suits, does Mr. Body say, oh, sorry, too late, I took my glove off. But don't worry, I just scratched my nose, and I did touch that console right by that ominous red spot, but nothing to worry about. No, he doesn't say that. He keeps it to himself. And when he gets back to the ship and that hand that directly touched stuff starts to hurt, does he come clean? Tell everybody what's going on? No, he keeps it to himself. And chaos ensues. Everything happens as a result of what Mr. Body did and didn't do. So you could hold him accountable for what happened. But Mr. Body died as a direct result of what he did. So he was held accountable. That brings us back to why the authorities would want to have a long talk with Mr. Riley. Some psychologists refer to it as front stage versus backstage. Front stage is how you present yourself to other people, and backstage is who you are in here. And very rarely do those two completely line up. Back in architecture school, I had a friend who used to always laugh and say that every time she had to present one of her design proposals, she always felt like she was doing it naked. Anybody who's ever had to present and then defend something that involved their creativity automatically understands my friend's feeling, because you're letting the world see a glimpse into your backstage. And that feels incredibly vulnerable. You feel like you're being exposed, because there's this almost primordial fear that people, once they get to know what's going on in that little old mind of yours, won't want anything to do with you. We all know there are certain things you don't say and do in polite society. The classic example is all of us at some point have wanted to tell our boss exactly which train they could take out of town, but we don't, for lots of reasons. That's just scratching the surface. All of us have much darker impulses, a very dark side that a lot of people don't even want to acknowledge they have. John Stuart Mill argued that if you knowingly put yourself into a state like drunkenness where you know those dark impulses will come out, you're still responsible for those dark impulses. This is where things get interesting. The University of Iowa has done research that shows, on average, it takes a person 2 drinks to realize there is no alcohol in their drink. But the whole time, they've been acting as if they're under the influence of alcohol, i.e., lower impulse control, much higher probability of acting on their dark impulses. This raises a chicken or the egg question. Does the consumption of alcohol, particularly at the beginning, lower our impulse control, thus allowing us to act on our dark desires? Or is it just a justification for us to act on our dark desires? We see this conundrum play out with what happens to Kirk, because he does the exact opposite of what Riley did. Kirk gets contaminated, starts to lose impulse control. His front stage slips, and we get a glimpse into his backstage, his aggression, willingness to take risks. But we also see the price he pays for command, the pressure of always having to make the right decision, do the right thing, act the right way. And we learn all he really wants is to find the love of his life and live a quiet, simple life. But once Kirk is made aware of what's going on, that he's been contaminated by a chemical that has a similar effect as to alcohol, He doesn't just throw up his hands and say, it's not my fault, but it looks like you guys are stuck with me the way I am. Hey, Spock, you want to go a couple more rounds? I know I can take you this time. No, his pride, his honor, his sense of duty and responsibility won't allow him to wallow in the state. He takes back control, and he does something key. He tells Scotty, clear the path between here, where I'm currently at, and the bridge where I need to go. Now, part of this is maintaining front stage. Doesn't want the crew to see him in this condition. But the more important thing is he's setting himself up to succeed. He's removing all distractions, all temptations, everything that would make it harder for him to maintain control so he can focus on solving the problem at hand. We have two people in the exact same situation. One revels in it, willingly gives in to their dark impulses, and the other rejects it, refuses to give up control. That's why the authorities would want to have a long talk with Mr. Riley. They'd want to know why he had those particular desires and why they were so close to the surface. Why, as soon as impulse control was gone, he was willing to go to such lengths to act upon them. This gets into Carl Jung's argument about the shadow, about the consequences of not confronting it, not integrating it into your personality. But then that gets into the next episode. At any rate, I hope I gave you all something to think about. And until next time, y'all be safe.
Please like and subscribe. Please leave a comment.